This episode of Back to the Roots podcast is brought to you by Byron Seeds. The folks at Byron Seeds believe organic requires a different perspective, plan, and approach. Organic isn't simply a different type of product or even a different way of farming. It's a different way of thinking, planning, commitment. It's a different philosophy on how to feed the world. Many won't understand, but the people at Byron Seeds do. We're owned by organic dairy farmers. We not only have the product, but we plan, manage, and execute organic. We speak your language, we share your struggles, and we laud your successes. Organic isn't a way of doing business, it's a community. We learn from each other. We're in this together. We'd be glad to talk cropping plans, management systems, the road to profitability. We understand what you're trying to do. We're farmers just like you. Visit us at byronseeds.net or give us a call at 800-801-3596. And thanks to Byron Seeds. Regional farmer updates are also brought to you by Soil Biotics. Improve your soil health naturally with Soil Biotics Soil Boost. This is a dry, humic product that creates a looser soil, improves water infiltration, and increases nutrient retention so fewer inputs are needed. Soil Biotics is currently offering a special fall discount program for Soil Boost from October 1st through the end of November. Call the office at 815-929-1752 or inquire at soilbiotics.com.
Ohio. We're enjoying a dreary Monday morning. We're hoping for rain, but so far we haven't. The past month has been quite dry. It seems it threatens to rain, but then it moves off and ends up not raining after all. The pastures are becoming a bit on the dry side, not much growth anymore with it being so dry, but it's also cooler. We've had some nice cool fall weather, which makes the pastures last a little longer. The end of August brought school back for our two youngest children. Claire is 10 and Ben is 8. They bike a little over a mile to a local country, one-room parochial school. They both enjoy it, although they would much prefer to stay at home if they could do that too. But they enjoy, especially our son enjoys, they play a lot of softball and he enjoys the social part of it. Laurel, our next daughter, is 14, and we only go to school until we're 14 or through the 8th grade. So she's spending the first year at home since she's out of school, which is a great boost for me and for Kevin. If I don't have work for her in the house or around the garden, she can always go out and help in the fields or around the barn. She does help with quite a bit of the milking. She enjoys it kind of, but you know how most children at 14, 15, they would much prefer, the grass is always greener somewhere else, but she does help out very well. The gardens right now, it's time to start clearing them out. I already did a lot. I raised dry beans, like a small black bean, and those I pulled out of the garden several weeks ago. I just pull out the whole plants and put them in the top of our horse barn on a screen that Kevin made with a frame and let them dry down completely. Then I'll pick off the pods. Then whenever we have time, we put them in a feed sack and get the children to stomp around on it to try and shell them. What hasn't shelled, my mom usually ends up sitting in the evening or during the day. She loves jobs that she can sit to work with her hands, so she'll shell the rest of the beans for me. So then later on in the fall, I usually can them so I don't have to cook them and soak them before I need them. So I also decided to raise pie pumpkins this year. I planted one plant, and I didn't count exactly, but I think I must have got at least 15 pumpkins from it. They're kind of small. Right now we're just using them for decorations, and then I'll can my pumpkin a little later once the decorating is over. We still have tomatoes, peppers, lettuce in the garden. The tomatoes they're not as tasty as they are during the longer days, so today I went to go pull out those plants, and then my large garden, I don't till or So in a cover crop, we have composted manure from our heifer barn it's from last winter that I will just put on, probably up to 6 inches deep. I will just cover my whole garden with that. Then by next spring, I'll just kind of push the mulch, separate the mulch a little bit with my hoe, and just try and get down to the soil to plant my seeds. So it's been really, really great for weed control. But this summer I had a battle with thistles. We had a lot of moisture, and apparently there's some seeds down there from probably 20 years ago that really love the mulch. So I've been struggling with thistles a little bit, which is not a lot of fun. You have to wear gloves if you're out hoeing. We haven't, like I said, we haven't had a hard frost yet, so we're enjoying those last garden goodies. I also planted dahlias that I was going to use as burgundy dahlias we do wedding flowers for people, friends. And I was raising these burgundy dahlias, and I think when the time the wedding rolled around last week, there were maybe 6 or 7 flowers blooming, and that was the week before last. And then last week, now they're in full bloom a week after the wedding. That seems kind of typical, but they're pretty at any rate. August means lots and lots of canning. I do several bushels of peaches, barbecue, a lot of tomato products, barbecue sauce, pizza sauce, and we have 4 bushels of apples waiting. One of my favorite foods growing up was applesauce, and so when I had children, of course, my favorite food, whatever I fed them, when I started feeding them table food, I always included applesauce, and so they all developed a strong taste for it. It takes lots of apples. We do an earlier transparent applesauce, several bushels. Earlier in the summer, we freeze that, and now we're ready for a fall, and this I will can. I had bought 3 bushels, but we were eating so many that I decided to add another bushel so that we have enough to last all winter. There's a orchard not too far from here that an old bachelor owns, and he doesn't get it taken care of. So we go down there and pick apples for cider. We're wanting to do that. Then we take it to a small, 1-horse operation, I guess you'd call it, a cider press, and they'll press it for us, which makes it much easier. And we usually get, up to 20 gallons or so. Then we just put it in the freezer and enjoy apple cider for about a year. In the barn, the cows have been freshening since the end of August. We've had a lot of bull calves, so we just have 3 heifer calves that we're raising right now. I looked down in the pasture this morning and we saw another cow is fresh, so we're hoping it's a heifer calf. The bull calves we just sell. We also, my friend had a dog that was going to have puppies, and they were going on vacation, so they asked if we could have the dog and the puppies, and she had 12 puppies. 2 died, but we just, oh my goodness, we had them in a box stall close to the cow stable. And the children, I almost didn't have help milking because they were so busy playing with the puppies. At 7 weeks, the owner came and got them because he was selling them, but they were getting a little rambunctious. The fun was kind of wearing off because they were just a little too aggressive. But that was a nice diversion to calves. And also Ben's mama goat had 2 twin babies. She actually had triplets, but one died. So they're just our free-range goats. This year, I decided to try something different with strawberry plants. I always struggle with them getting disease. So a local produce raiser, they get strawberry plants in, they plant them in the fall in August, and then they pick them in the spring, and then they pull out the plants. It's just a 1-year plant. So I planted 50 of those, and they were doing great, but the goats discovered them, and I think the baby goats obviously developed a taste for them. Oh, they didn't get half, but they clipped quite a few of them. I was not very happy, but they're too cute to discipline, I guess. We also had our corn silage harvest here about the 2nd week in September. Kevin and Seth bought a new 2-row corn chopper, and they thought it was just wonderful. We fill a 120-foot bag with silage, and then we also have a small silo that we fill as well. And they had a wonderful day of corn chopping. Then, to celebrate that, I guess they decided to go. I have a sister who lives in New York, and her children wanted Kevin and Seth and Seth's cousin, my nephew, to go hiking with them and hiking the Adirondack High Peaks. So they went last week. They left on a Tuesday and hiked for 3 days overnight hiking. They had a nice rainstorm the first night that pretty much soaked the tent and everything. So they hiked for 3 days with wet shoes, but they did have a wonderful time. The scenery was nice the days that the sun was shining, and they enjoyed their brief vacation. I had thought of going, but I was milking once I heard that they hiked 13 miles, seemed like straight uphill with wet shoes, but they did enjoy that. So now it's kind of just getting the fall, waiting on corn harvest, the ear corn, and kind of winding down the gardens and getting ready for long winter days, I guess.
Okay, I've got a couple of follow-up questions, comments. Yep. The corn chopping day, Seth had a camera, and there is a video on our YouTube channel documenting the day of corn chopping, and I'm hoping to do another video with Seth and you guys when you're picking corn. But didn't Ben have something exciting happen in the last week?
Oh, how could I have forgotten that? Ben shot his first buck with the crossbow. So that deer harvest was very large in his opinion, and everybody was totally excited. Yes, he shot his first deer, so that is big news. I shouldn't have forgotten that.
Yeah, I made a note of that to make sure and ask you if you forgot, because I don't think he's stopped smiling since.
He was very, very thrilled.
Well, Ann, thank you so much for taking the time for that update. Really look forward to it every month to doing these. So thanks again for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Well, happy fall from the upper Midwest. Melissa Weyland here, and I'm located in East Central Wisconsin, just outside of Appleton and Neenah. And we have had a crazy, unseasonably warm fall up here, which has just resulted in, I feel like, so many observations in nature, even on the farm, that are different than our normal year. It has been very warm. We have been pretty much hanging around the 70s or even mid 70s for many days. We're getting a little bit cooler at night, but normally this time of year, we are typically going out to the barn in big, heavy sweatshirts and many layers because it'll start to warm up later in the morning, but that hasn't been the case here. So it's been kind of neat. We had a very intense thunder shower early this morning about 4, and I just couldn't help but think, wow, it feels like this is July. So it is not a normal October until the sun comes up, and then we start to see our beautiful fall colors. So we're not quite peaked here in East Central Wisconsin, but we're getting very close. Northern Wisconsin is probably right at peak or a little over peak. And what that means is in our area, as the colors change, there's a point where the colors are their most colorful, essentially, and that's what we consider our peak. And we kind of all try to just enjoy, earlier in the fall, we'll tend to go north to see our fall colors as they move south as the weather continues to change. But again, despite the colors changing, it has been crazy warm, and it feels like June even, or July, and I personally love it. I am a summer girl through and through, so I could keep this weather forever. But I'm also thankful that here in Wisconsin we do get to see such great seasons. And also, I would worry if we had weather this glorious all of the time that everyone would want to move here and everyone would want to farm here. So a couple cute things or neat things I've noticed on the farm this year that have been different is really what I'm going to call the blooms of the season. And what I mean by that is I noticed our goldenrod had the strangest season that I've probably ever seen our goldenrod have. For those of you that don't know what goldenrod is or don't have it in your area, it is a native invasive, we call it. And so it is something that is native to our area, but goldenrod does tend to really take over an area. Like if we're not doing a great job of managing pastures, you could see it take over, or you'll see it at times in some years take over even just our regular prairie lands or parks, or mostly you'll notice it even just in our roadsides and things like that. But the goldenrod had started to bloom at a very normal time, I noticed. I can't recall the date, but it was like, probably like late August, early September, I had noticed the first blooms, and then they were like done within a few weeks because goldenrod doesn't like the warm. And so it has just sort of been black, whereas often I will actually be picking some goldenrod right now and hanging it and drying it because I like to make goldenrod soap with it. But long story short, just a weird goldenrod year. I've also noticed other blooms that are just continuing to bloom throughout the pastures and the fence lines and even our yards, like our coneflowers or echinaceas. Our asters are blooming like crazy. So this time of year, if you come up to Wisconsin, you would a lot of times see the yellow from the goldenrod, but this year you really see a dominant purple and that would be our asters. And then really fun, just any pretty natural blooms or blooms that people have planted are having a very extended season, or what would be like a second bloom. So all of our coneflowers or echinacea are still blooming, and all of our I also noticed that there is like some dahlias and some irises that are going through a second bloom. So it's just kind of neat when you're on the farm and you're so connected to nature and you see these things, you notice things that are not ordinary. And I guess for me, I'm just sharing this because I think it's kind of neat that we get to notice like, oh yeah, you already bloomed earlier. Hey, welcome back, because it's beautiful out here. And it's just kind of neat to see all these extra blooms in nature being so vibrant with all of the fall colors. It's just so beautiful here right now. So if you're listening to this and you're wanting to see the Wisconsin fall, you have a very small window, but you should definitely make yourself prioritize making a trip up quick just to check it out. So I will say too, I'm not a mushroom hunter, or I'm not much of a forager, but all of my mushroom hunting friends are just loving this because it's been so nice, but it's also been a bit humid, I think, and all of these just different pieces have been really favoring the fungal environments too, and so people are just having a ball that enjoy and are good at mushroom hunting. I personally am terrified of that. I'm not good at it, and I would probably be the one to eat stuff that I shouldn't be eating. So, and lastly, it's kind of fun because we're getting to continue to see some late migrations of just monarchs, some of the stragglers, which I wonder if it wasn't so nice, what would those late monarchs be doing? Would they not be making it? I'm not really sure. But we are just continuing to see some of those things happen to much, much later than normal. So, I would say the cows and the animals love it. This is just like amazing. If we had these long of seasons every year, I think that we all just would love it. But we don't have that. Each year is a little bit different. Each year has its own personality, and I will just call this year the year of hay abundance and long, beautiful growing season. So that is kind of my farm update and my nature update, I guess I'll call it. And then I'll just tack on here because I know a lot of people are just curious about what I've been going on, because I've had some pretty big life changes and I've had some pretty big shifts in what I've been up to compared to earlier in the year. So in July, I actually accepted a position outside of Organic Valley. So I had been with Organic Valley for just coming up on 11 years. So most all of my adult career has actually been with OV. And an opportunity came up for me locally to lead a small co-op, a small farmer co-op called SLO. So we call it Slow Farmers Co-op for short. Slow Farmers Co-op is a small cooperative. Currently we have 8 members supplying grass-fed meat, pastured and heritage pork, and pastured chicken, as well as pastured eggs just really very much in the local food market here in northeastern Wisconsin. That is our primary customer base, and it is also our farmer base. So I will say that I am so grateful for the career trajectory that I got to have with Organic Valley and all of the chances that people gave me and all of the mentors at Organic Valley had pushed me to grow, because now I feel like I am able to kind of give back to the world with what I've learned there by working for this very small co-op. So it's been fun. It has been interesting. I am in a position now where, like I said, I'm leading the cooperative. I'm serving as their general manager. So I'm just having a ball learning a lot. I am a dairy girl through and through, so I'm just really kind of putting myself to the test a little bit by diving in and learning other facets and areas of agriculture that I'm not as familiar with. So, we also do organic vegetables. I forgot to mention that. But I'm like a fish out of water a little bit still, but it's been fun. As many of you know, I'm very passionate about local food movements and regional food systems, and so I'm excited to be in that sector for my off-farm job, and just kind of see that continue to grow and evolve here in eastern Wisconsin, where we have tended to lag behind in our local food movement and local food options. So it's been fun to be a part of watching that grow and expand and becoming more available, not only for our small local farmers, but also for local consumers. And lastly, one super exciting announcement I just want to share is that many of you know I've been a part of a startup food cooperative here in eastern Wisconsin, the Oshkosh Food Co-op, which is in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And I've been a part of that project for just over 4 years now. And we actually opened our doors at the end of July. So we're coming up on as of this update, we're coming up on 9 or 10 weeks open. And that has just been amazing. Any of you know, especially if you're farmers, how much work and years sometimes that we put into our projects and into things that we care about, but it takes a while to see them come to fruition. And that's kind of how I feel about the food co-op. It is a full service grocery store emphasizing in local foods. So we at any given point in time, we are sourcing 20% of what is in the store locally. And again, it's just another connection that we're getting to make here in Wisconsin to help connect the local farmers and consumers looking for local food. So 2021 has been a crazy year, but it's been very exciting. So I think I'll stop there, unless you have questions, Mike.
Well, I do have a couple questions. I want to backtrack a little bit and ask, what kind of mushrooms would your friends be looking for right now?
Oh my gosh. They go for like the pretty basic ones, which are not that basic to me, that I don't really understand even, but they go for like hen of the woods, or like there's these I think they're honey buttons might be the right one, or even like puff balls. Like I've seen people, people have sent me pictures, or they'll post on their social media of these like giant puff balls, Mike, that are like, they're like bigger than watermelons. I've always had interest in that, because we as organic farmers are super interested in like the anatomy of how things talk underground and all of that. And like mushrooms have this whole cool story. But yeah, those are some that I know of, but I'm not an expert.
Yep. I actually have a mushroom field guide that I used to carry along so I wouldn't eat the old destroying angel or the angel of death. Oh,
yeah.
But I've been looking for hen of the woods here and have not found any. I actually inoculated logs and buried them hen of the woods last year, so I'm hoping they'll produce this year, but we'll see. The other question I have is on how do people find the two co-ops that you mentioned?
Oh, sure. So Slow Farmers Co-op, you can just look up, our website is Farmers Co-op, and that's co-op.com. And like I said, we would have some local producer options, but we are only located here in Northeast Wisconsin. But yeah, you can check us out there. And then Oshkosh Food Co-op, you can find Oshkosh Food Co-op on any of the social media platforms, or at www.oshkoshfoodcoop.com. I do encourage, if you're traveling through and if you're looking for a good lunch spot, or even just something like as a good grab and go, we have a little deli there. We've got a great grab and go, and just options are great. It's not far off of Highway 41. So if you're traveling through the area, it's a really good spot. It's the only food co-op in Northeast Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So cool.
Well, I now understand. You missed the last update, and now I understand why. I think you've got a lot of stuff going on this year. So
I did. Yeah.
hopefully it'll slow down a little bit.
I hope so. Yeah, I was moving from OV to SLO at the time, and the farm was crazy because, it's grazing, and I just feel like the hay kept coming this year, by the way. So we had all of that going on, and the food co-op was opening. So it was just like no sleep. It was like no sleep July and August. It was like no sleep, no eat. But I'm here.
Yep. Well, Mel, I really appreciate you taking the time this morning to do this, and I'm also looking forward to our year-end wrap-up in December. So thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Mike. See you in December.
Hello, everybody. Jolene Mcclelland from Petaluma, California. Not a lot has changed really weather-wise here since I feel like the beginning of me participating in this podcast. We still have not gotten any significant rain. Again, though, that is normal weather patterns for our summer and early fall. We're actually this week experiencing what we refer to as an Indian summer. It's been very warm compared to coming off of a pretty mild summer. The temperatures around Sonoma County has been 90 and above the past couple days. Supposedly supposed to be cooling off starting tomorrow, and we might even possibly be getting a tiny bit of rain later in the week. We did have a little fluke system come through in September, and we even had some water. It was enough where water was running off the house, and my kids, who are 10 and 14, actually ran out and ran in the rain a little bit. I think everybody was excited to experience that after being dry for so long. Here on our farm, we are coming up on our annual organic inspection happening next week. We are, so far on our farm still, we've been lucky. We have not had to haul in any significant amount of water, but a lot of the day now is just spent checking in on wells and making sure that they're running. I think I've mentioned in the past that we put in some new ones a few years ago that aren't hooked up to electricity, so they're being ran by the generator, so someone always has to go and check on those. We are getting all of our manure out, spreading them on the fields in preparation for winter, which we try to get wrapped up by October 15th, but we do have until about November 1st to get it done. Some of that has to do with our regional water quality boards actually have dairies have to apply for waivers, and so that's all a part of those waivers, is getting it out in a timely manner, and then there's some paperwork that we'll have to have turned in by November 30th. Other than that, we have our regional meeting this Thursday, which we are doing via Zoom, I think, just because when the planning process went in for that, there was still some high numbers happening on the West Coast in regards to COVID. So everybody just decided to play it safe one more time. Hopefully we can get back to in-person the next time. And kids are back in school. 4-H is back to full swing, and just hoping that we will get a wet winter. I've heard some various thoughts on predictions. We're supposed to be having what they refer to as a La Nina year, so that's where the ocean, right, that we're by off the coast here, the water's supposed to be warm, which can sort of push storms away. So I've heard some people say we're not going to get a lot of rain because the storms will be pushed away. But then I've heard a couple other people say that some analysts that they were listening to said that it doesn't sound as bad as that maybe we will be getting some rain. And one analyst even said they're predicting an average year. So we shall see. That is one occupation where a lot of predictions can be made and you can be wrong and still keep your job. So hopefully the average year would be a nice, I hope to see that prediction come through. So that's all I have from here. Do you have any questions for me?
I do. When does your rain generally start? Is it in November or December?
Our rains, I would say in general, are November. However, we can have them start as early as October. And of course, they can start as late as December. But on average, November. The grass normally will start turning green again in November if we get a little shot in October.
And then when would you be even thinking about getting the cows back out on it?
We try to do it as soon as possible. We start to put them back if it's normal. This did not happen to us last year because the rains were very, very late coming. Our goal is to try to get them going back out in November, December. Now, most of those times, I would not say that 30% of their dry matter intake is coming from pasture, but we can get 15, 20. We like to keep our cows out as much as possible and really only bring them in. We have loafing barns, only bring them in when they would do severe damage to the pastures because of them being too wet. And then, of course, for the comfort of the cows, not standing out in the middle of a storm. We probably, I would say, maybe graze a little bit more aggressively than maybe some neighbors. Some neighbors really, really wait until everybody makes their 31-20 on a normal year, but some of them maybe have a tighter grazing window than we do. We try to do it as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, this time of year, it's so beautiful here. Cooled off a little bit. It's a great time of year, and I really, really enjoy listening to what you're doing on the West Coast, and then with Abbie Corse talking about Vermont and being wet, and then my sister here, we've had about the best year here ever, and then Melissa in the Midwest. So it's just crazy how different these patterns are, and it's I find it so interesting. Every month I get these updates, so I really appreciate you taking the time, Jolynn.
Great, thank you.
Hi, this is Abbie Corse from Whitingham, Vermont, with my update. We are still more inundated with rain than we care to be. We were able to get a break in the weather for long enough that we finally finished our second cutting. We are still not done with our first, which is crazy. But we just hit this magical little period of 3 or 4 days that we were able to get some dry hay in, dry second cutting in for our calves for the winter, which is something we were really concerned about. That was like a pervading stressor. So very relieved that we have feed for them. And then we have, we have so many bales. I think we're probably have made 500 or close to 500 wrapped bales, which is unheard of. Normally we make 2. There just was so much first cutting from all the rain that we've gotten. I think I said in my last update we had 21 inches of rain in July, and I'm not certain where August came in, but it didn't stop raining. So definitely pretty concerned about what's going to happen with manure this fall. Was really excited about the sod seeming to dry out enough that I was, thinking that maybe by next week I could start, but it's raining again today. So, yeah, lots of weather considerations. And on the other side, lots of, our stocking rate in our pasture is really good, and the girls have lots to eat. And so that's, that's great too. So that's kind of where we're at the moment.
So your rain you just had rain all year and unseasonably wet?
Oh, yes. Just sopping wet. Whereas in the northern part of the state, it's dry. They're dry. The south of Vermont has a very different microclimate than the north. And we just capture these. We tend to so like Hurricane Henri, we caught not a lot of, but the tail end of. And so we just seem to catch water events primarily, or wind in the winter. So yeah, I guess keeps us busy.
Now, when you say you've got 500 bales of hay, is it lacking in quality then, or were you able to get some really good stuff made as well?
We don't know. That's the other thing that I'm really worried about, is that we now have, 500 bales of really terrible feed. I'm choosing to remain optimistic because, that's part of this job, right? One, and two, we haven't gotten we have to send in for some forage samples to see where we are at. And I'm hopeful that because the first cutting was so late, that there's enough second cutting in it that maybe there's a bit of a balance that can come from it. I don't know. It remains to be seen. But the other thing is that there are so many farmers in Vermont, in the north, that are low on feed that, I'm hoping that it's not terrible and that we can, sell it to some of our neighbors to help them out of being low. Mm-hmm. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So with all the rain, were you like really cloudy, overcast, not a lot of sunshine all summer, or was it just like sunny and then rain showers?
By late August, it was starting to do a little bit more of those sort of, it reminds me, I studied abroad in Belize, and it kind of reminded me of that, where you'd have like a sunny day and then it would pour and then it'd be sunny and humid again. But most of the summer was overcast and rain, like real rain. So we didn't even get the normal levels of photosynthesis, things like that. Yet another reason why grass makes sense here.
Mm-hmm. I always worry whenever you're looking at a hay crop and it was just cloudy and it didn't get that photosynthesis. It seems like the forage sample is always kind of a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get.
That is, yep. Jury's still out. Maybe I'll know by the time of our next update.
Okay, that would be good. The production on the cows, has that been good this summer? Or was it hot as well?
It wasn't overly hot. We had days that were very hot, but it wasn't overly hot here. And gosh, I know I should know that off the top of my head. I know that certainly like our components aren't quite where I would like them to be, but I think our yields are staying. I don't think we've lost much yield this summer. Okay. But I would have to check in on that.
Yep, and you're heading into fall up there.
Oh yeah, we're on in fall. Yep, the trees are brilliant.
Oh really? Your trees are turning already?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, that's always a wonderful time of year. That's also a little depressing.
Exactly. Yes. It's so beautiful and so sad.
Yes. No, it's like, oh, what a beautiful fall day. Oh, next winter. Or
I know.
But
and it's hard, I've been any hanging that I have done, I've had on like more layers than I normally have to, work outside in the winter practically. So it's, I just feel like I'm suffering from a lack of photosynthesis. But, we'll figure it out. Just keep going.
Yep. And that's the life of a farmer in a nutshell.
Of a farmer.
Yep.
For sure.
Well, Abbie, thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully your 4-H samples come back in our rocket fuel for our December wrap-up of the year. So looking forward to that. So thanks for taking the time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope I can update you with rocket fuel news next time.
Sounds good.
This episode was brought to you by Soil Biotics, providing full circle improvement for soil health and plant growth naturally.